We're here, it's an absolute pleasure. And you know what, for me, the reason why I came to see you was because we had a conversation on the phone.
Yes.
And I knew how interested you were from the interview with Terry Topcat, which is a fantastic interview.
Thank you.
But we went off and started talking about real issues. I mean, it's one thing to talk about music, and music obviously is the spice of life. It's so important to how we condition ourselves as people.
Yes.
But at the same time, you know, it's like there are things about being black, and again, no offence to anybody, because obviously I see everyone as my brothers and sisters. That's how I look at it. Whether you're black, white or green, I see everybody as brothers and sisters. We're all on a different journey in our lives, but basically I see everyone as my brothers and sisters.
Yes.
But we had this wonderful conversation about social issues, about what we think the problems are within our own communities, and how they have affected us to such an extent that it's almost like you can't come back from it. And why I was particularly interested in talking to people, interviewing people, and even being part of Clusterview and setting up what we're doing.
Yes.
So I just wanted to talk to you more, get more in-depth conversations and let people kind of see some of the social topics and things that we discussed. So okay. You said you wanted to say something beforehand.
Well, I just wanted to say, anything that I say, I want to make it very clear, these are my personal feelings. This is the way I feel, this is the way I was brought up, this is my belief. I believe that we're all human. We all bleed red blood. I just wish we can find a way to all get along and listen to each other. I think it's very important that we listen to each other, not just talk. You know, there's too much talking going on. I think we need to listen to each other and then respond, then reply. So this is my truth, and I want to share it with you.
Well, thank you. I kind of feel that as a black man, it's like you can't even talk about crime. I said to someone, look, you know what, there's a lot of crime in Jamaica, for example. We had this Jamaican Independence Day just, you know, I think it was yesterday, 2 days ago.
Right.
A very important time for black people. And what I found is that, yes, there was such an outpouring of support for Jamaica and how Jamaica's changed, but still, we still find there's a high crime rate in Jamaica. It's actually kind of considered to become the capital of the world of crime. And when you speak to people about of that, I mean, that's obviously very much a negative for black people. I'm Jamaican, you know, or from Jamaican descent. So they just say to you, they say things like, you know what, there's crime all over the world. I'm like, but that's not the point. The point is there's still crime and we need to kind of address that. And how do we resolve it and solve it? Now, in your upbringing in America, what was it like for you? You know, what did you experience in terms of, was crime very normal, or was it something that you didn't see too often?
In my upbringing, I was quite fortunate. I was surrounded with family values. And, you know, there was a short period of time that we lived in the projects. My mother was a single mother of 3 kids. She worked 2 jobs. I had to learn how to be the man of the house, and I was probably only 7 years old. But I think a lot of the problem in the world today, especially with our black culture, is the fact that there's too many kids trying to raise kids. Parents are just barely becoming adults, and they've already taken on the responsibility of having children. When you take on that responsibility, and don't misunderstand me, I know accidents happen, life happens, this is the way of the world or whatever, but I think we need to, in this day and age, we should be a little bit more responsible for knowing the value of a child's life. It's not about just popping out kids and having a baby and this and that. You have to nurture them, you have to give them security, you have to give them love, you have to surround them with love. And I think this is where the world has gone crazy. The world's always been crazy. There's always been problems, there's always been gangs, there's always been this, there's always been that. Don't misunderstand me. But with a lot of people turn their nose up and it's like, oh, you know, they're having another kid, they're popping out another baby. Oh, you know, the blacks, they're, you know, give them the drugs, give them, you know, they just want sex and music and this and that. And I think that stereotype attitude is so sad for us because there's so many black people, black families, black children that strive and do so well, that want to go to college, that want to get an education, that want to do better, want to take their mother, buy them a house, take them out of the projects, do this and do that. But I don't think there's enough parents being parents, and this is where I think a lot of the issues start. Again, like I said, babies making babies.
Yeah, but is that, sorry to cut you there, but is that black culture? I mean, you said it's black culture. I see, I see it more like, you know what I mean, it's just working class subculture, to be fair.
Well, I
Do middle class people tend to have kids at such young ages, or do they wait until they get to some point?
No, they don't. No, basically.
So is it a class thing more than a black culture thing?
Not so much. I'm sorry. Okay, because basically we're talking about black culture, but no, you can go in America. You go down to the Bible Belt, and it's the same thing. See, I've always compared two things in life: black music, black culture. The Bible Belt, country music, we're exactly the same, running neck to neck. Basically, it's the poor people that don't feel that they have, the strive or the drive to want to take themselves out. You could be born any place in the world, but it's what you want, and what you want is being nurtured by the people that you're surrounded with. And again, going back to, I just think that too many people, it's very easy to pop up babies. But when you get them, that's a responsibility. Because all the things from the time they're born until the time basically they're 10, 11, 12, if you haven't done a good job by then, you can forget it. Because by then it's a different thing. You by the time you get to 10, 11, 12, you're ready to talk back. I'm not doing that. I want to be with my friends. I want to hang out. No, come home after school, do your homework, do your chores and this and that. Done. But at 10 or 11, if you don't have your children under control, you've lost control. Yeah, you've lost control. Now there are the ones who get through. The ones who, a lot of the times, are the ones who look at their life and go, "This is not what I want forever. This is not what I want for my children. I want better." I think we've lost, not black, not white, but with the youth, we've lost the control to guide them.
Thankfully, is I do have some knowledge, because we talked about it before. Like I was one of those kids. Like you seem to have a completely different life to what I had growing up. And so, it's like I had no idea what I wanted to be at that age. I had no idea. I didn't have any ambition. I absolutely didn't have any ambition whatsoever. And so when you have no ambition, it's so easy to find yourself
on the wrong
taken down a certain path. And because I was always, this is not something that people don't realise and don't talk about enough, is the lives of young people, is that it's, in criminology it's called differential association, so it's like a peer pressure. That peer pressure is constantly there around them, and it's guiding them, taking them away. So if you haven't got your parents there or somebody going, "Hey dude, that's not for you.
Right.
This is not for you. You're better than this."
Right.
You're gonna just slip down that crack. And I slipped down that crack because even as much as I wanted better, I didn't know what better was. Do you know what I mean? I knew my mum loved me, adored me. It was a wonder. I don't love. I knew what love was. So I could compare that. But I knew if someone was terrible to me, I knew that wasn't love. That was a bad thing. But I didn't really, I didn't know enough, because there were people always trying to offer me ways out, and I would kind of take them. And I only realised later on, what the real way out was. How did you avoid, that path?
I think that first of all, I had family support. I didn't have a father in the house, but I was surrounded by strong women. My father wasn't in the house, but I had uncles who were with my aunts, and I had good, strong men. And because I grew up in the church, we had deacons, we had pastors, we had people to talk to. There was recreational things for us to do. there was sports and things like that. Nowadays, the problem is that all the money, they keep talking about there's not enough money for this, not enough money for that, and da-da-da. You take away the children creativity. You take away their exercise. You take away social skills, and you leave them with a computer. And everybody thinks that a computer is, that's why there's, kids nowadays can't even talk to each other, but they can talk to you on the screen. This is where, again, we go wrong. Having kids, you come home, you're a bit tired, da-da-da-da, you stop, you get at McDonald's, da-da-da, you turn the television on and say, okay, great, here, sit here, have your dinner, watch telly, da-da-da, and then you do whatever, da-da-da. But we're not engaging with our children. We're not asking, how was your day today? What did you learn in school today? How was your teacher? Do you like your teacher? Da-da-da. Is there anything going on that we need to talk about?
Do you think maybe because these parents, I mean, I just think possibly it's down to the parents aren't equipped to have those conversations. I mean, I find it even with my son, you know, he's got, sometimes he's subjects he's doing and I'm like, you know, I'm not au fait on those subjects, and I'm like, so I'm not going to have the conversation about the subjects. I just don't have the ability. I don't want to start, you know, revising and learning about this stuff.
But
researching it, revising, researching.
But there's a reverse way that you can do what you can do, and I learned this. You can say, "What is that you're learning in school? I don't remember learning that. Can you tell me?" Of course,
exactly. And they teach me. They teach you. That's right. Yeah.
Turning it around. I think that. You know, and we close up, I didn't learn that, you know, I don't have good spelling, and when I'm, you know, on the thing and I've got the spelling app on there, I go, oh, thank God this thing is here and this and that, and I think sometimes, do you know what? It's all a little bit too easy, because otherwise I would go, if I'm writing a letter and I can't spell something, I'll go to my dictionary and I look up that word, because I don't want to write a letter to someone and my spelling is off. So I think, it goes to pride. We have to build our kids up. We have to make them feel engaged with them. We have to make them feel that they're important. And not only, you know, when I was brought up, you didn't talk back, which I totally still respect that way. But we don't talk back to me, but talk to me. You know, I'll listen to you. You know, are you upset? You know, what is it you don't like? Talk to me. But if you don't talk to your kids, if we don't talk to each other, we're not going to get anything, because what happens, I believe in the law of attraction, I'm Buddhist, and what it teaches us is ask and you shall learn. Be understanding to someone. If you see someone and they snap at you and they're a bit nasty or whatever, or being a bit racist or whatever, you just kind of go, oh, have a bad day today? Oh, well, I hope you have a better day. You know, reverse it. Don't immediately fall right into that trap, because it's so easy. And the other thing that it really teaches us, which I believe, and I believe in teaching children, never assume you know what someone's day has been like. Never assume that you know what somebody else is thinking. Never assume that you have the answers. That person could have just got off their mobile phone and just lost their aunt or their cousin or whatever. You know, we're so quick to jump to conclusions, to jump to have the answers. And the children watch us as adults, how we react. Let's say, for example, you and your wife are having, you know, and you say, I don't know.
Of course, of course.
Then they look at that and they pick up from it, and then they think that's the norm. You know, and it's the same thing with all this.
But sorry to cut you there again, because I think you're saying no, because I don't want to go off track a little bit. Crime. He talks about what's the norm, and that gets my head going, because if the norm is violence, if the norm is anger, if the norm is tension, if the norm is depression and stress, then absolutely that's what they're gonna get into. And I think that's a lot of it. I think it's about these normalities for these kids. I mean, like you talked about the parents ignoring stuff. They're ignoring it because maybe that's their norm. And so, you know, when the kids are going through these difficult times, they've got their own troubles, so they can't see. They're not interested in seeing or asking the kids what's going on, because they're dealing with their own stress. Do you think that might be a part to play in some of this, though? Like their own stresses and their own problems just literally becoming so overwhelming.
There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be stress. But the children are our future. And we've gone through what they've gone through, and now they're going through it, and it's our job to make that journey for them.
Yeah, and you're totally right, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. It is that, because what I've noticed from different cultures, I've noticed, like, you know, like I find that sometimes I talk to my kids about stuff that maybe it's not really for them to know about. You know, little conversations, like my childhood days when I was in gangs. Maybe my kids don't need to hear about that stuff or know about that stuff. But I talk about that stuff with them, almost to prepare them for what they're going to walk into. Whereas my wife, she wouldn't have those conversations with them, because for her it's like, no, you protect your children from those conversations. Do you understand? And so it's culturally, she just protects. Rather, it's not lying. She would just omit that from their lives, so they don't hear these things.
Well, there's a very thin line there, because you sharing your past, you're being open and honest. She's protecting them from, well, they don't have to know all of that, because sometimes what happens with children, they think, oh, but Dad did it, so I'll do it and I'll come out of it too. No. What I'm trying to tell you is that I did that. That's not the way. I don't want you. I don't believe in going to the gory details. I don't believe that, and I believe that wrong is wrong, right is right. There's no two ways about it. Now I'm going to kind of skip over into us being responsible as adults. I have a huge issue with the music business at the moment. I'm very, very, very happy with Black success. Black musicians, all of that hip hop and all that kind of music and all that dance music, Calvin Harris, all the way to P. Diddy and da-da-da. They're learning to keep their publishing, they're learning the business, they're protecting themselves, they're getting their rights, and they're making a lot of money, da-da-da-da-da, and it's great. But through that...
I'm waiting for that part.
Through that, what we've done is that we've made the kids think, oh, well, P. Diddy and Jay-Z used to be drug dealers. I can be a drug dealer. And then, and then I'll just rap on the street and then I'll get my break and da-da-da-da-da. No. This is what I have an issue with.
But that's their truth, isn't it? That's what they consider to be their truth.
That's their truth. But what they don't do, and I'm going to be very honest, I don't like rap music, I don't know hip-hop, I don't know any of that kind of music, whatever. It's not my kind of thing. But what they don't do, I don't see it, is that they don't reverse it so that the kids, through the message of, the parties and the champagne and this and that they put this message out there like, remember Martin Luther King, remember, get an education, go to college, don't end up like, this doesn't work for everybody. Everybody's not going to be a reality star. Everybody's not going to be the Kardashians. And the kids are thinking, and they see like, oh, he used to be a thug, he used to rob people, he used to do this and do that and da-da-da. And going back to what you were saying about explaining to your children, whatever, I think that you have to be honest with them and say, no, that's not, I used to do that. And do you know what? It got me in a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And that's not the path and the way that you want to go. What you want to do, you know what you do? You kill them with education. We're not bringing the message back around through the music about education. You've got the kids nowadays, that everything nowadays, they're like 5 years, okay, I'll give you another example. 5 years old, 6 years old, everybody's having a family party gathering and this and that.
I know what you're going to say.
And you got the little kids just twerking. No! No!
That's basically sexualizing your children, basically.
Completely.
It used to be that we had this kind of morality, we knew what was right and wrong, we went to church, we had a certain respect for our adults. And
you can twerk.
From what I grew up with, how my mum was, I mean, it was like she was very strict in that regard and about ourselves. I couldn't tell her that I couldn't tell her I had sex. Do you know what I mean? I just didn't want to tell her. I knew it'd break her heart. She'd be like, how, when, she thought I would, And one day I got the courage to tell her these things, and it was like, and she was stunned. Do you know what I mean? So it's like there was a certain level of respect that I had to have for my mum, and to see back in those days, you'd never seen that. And so it's like the generations today, it's normal. It's like it's very normal for young kids to dance like the adults. We tried to do it in the end when we were kids. We did the same thing, but the dancing now is so sexual.
It's so sexual.
Even trying to understand it, and I try my best to understand everything, but I just think, I look and I think,
Okay,
why?
if I had a daughter, and you're having a party, now with all the stuff going on in the world, and we're much more aware of all the stuff that goes on. You know, it used to be when I was growing up, it was like, oh, you know, be careful of that uncle over there, he's not quite right. Or that auntie, you know, we're not sure about her. Okay. So you got the warning signs, or your parents will come to you and say, now you haven't been bothered. Has anybody been bothering you? You say no, or by the way, oh yes, or whatever, da da da. Nowadays, to mold our kids into that kind of, to give them that freedom to do these things is, to me, in my opinion, inviting pedophiles. Is inviting children to be taken advantage of, boys and girls. You know, everything's on television. Going back to, I was saying about, you know, these videos and things that they do. Then they got all the then you got the adults twerking, and then you got this, and then you got the champagne, and you got this, and then you'd be like, you know, by the pool, it's like, you know, 5 women all for this one guy. Dude, it's a message. We're sending a message to the kids. Nowadays, the kids, you know how easy it is for them, and how many of the kids, I've heard, let me tell you something, I've heard things from kids that I didn't even know about. I mean, you know, and sexually, they're just too advanced. You have the rest of your, I remember when I was growing up, they used to say to me, enjoy your childhood. It's such the shortest part of your life, and you have the rest of your life to be an adult. And those words couldn't be truer. And I think that's what it is too. We're not instilling into our children. Keep them in the youth. Keep them in the playground.
I think people are scared. I think people are just too afraid, to be honest.
Well, don't have kids.
Before you go to that, what I've started to see is that, you know, it's like when you go to a community, because I go to different estates, I walk around, I go around different estates, I just want to see and understand, you know, some of the issues. And you see that the people, you know, they live in, it's like they live in fear, you know, they live in fear. It's you know, I don't think they're dressing like this and being like this because this is sometimes who they want to be. I think it's because they just cannot.
They want to fit.
Get out. They can't. Yeah, they need to fit. They need to fit in. And I've heard so many stories of guys. I mean, when I was growing up, the middle class kids used to try to dress like the black kids and try to be like the black kids and get into hip hop and everything else because they wanted to fit in. Because otherwise, they just felt like they were just. They didn't.
Swear to geek.
But you know, they had choices. They had options. We didn't have an option. That was what we had. That's all we had. But, you know, and that was it. And a lot of times it was because they wanted to be attractive to the girls. And you know what I mean? So it was like they had to. You know, the black guys back in those days were attractive. You know what I mean? Everyone was like on, you know, we dance really well, blah, blah, blah. You know, and then, you know, then afterwards they could go back, they could change their lives and go and become an estate agent and they could get away and escape. But we were still stuck in that place. Do you understand me? And the choices, I just think that people are afraid to be different. And that's the reason why this conversation was so important to me with you, because I wanted just people to kind of understand that they feel, if you think that the way you live is the only way to live, there are other ways, and, you know, we're having this conversation because we're saying that, you know what, there is an alternative, even through music. Do you know what I mean? The behaviours that we've lost, which were positive behaviours, we've taken on these very negative behaviours, and it's become so normal. We don't see that they're negative anymore. We don't see that. I mean, if you look at Tupac talks about so many. He was an incredible character, and I don't, you know, he was a gangster rapper, but my God, was he a contradiction, because he cared so much about people.
Yes, he did.
Absolutely. Yes. And when I watch his videos, I'm like, I can't say anything negative about gangster rap when there are people like this guy sitting there going, hey, why he's talking about why has Michael Jackson got so much money? How can he have so much money and not share it? You know, it's the same type of heart that good people that I've seen in my life having those kind of conversations. So it's like, what has gone wrong that allows us to not recognise that the things that we are doing are negative, and they're not helping us as a people to grow.
Because one of the major things at this time in life, I believe, is that we have instilled in ourselves, and especially the children, the youth, it's all about money. It's all about money. There you go.
That's the money shot there, right there.
Money.
More than everything else. It's more important than anything else.
Listen, I love money just as much as the next person, and I need money like everybody else because I got to pay my bills and this and that. But you have to have respect for money. You have to have respect for it. You can't go out there and just, you're living in a one-room house, 2 bedrooms, and then there's 4 kids in 1 bedroom, but you're walking around with 800-pound trainers on. Now, see, I don't get that.
Yeah.
No, I don't get it. And I don't get this whole... I understand the children, because if you don't follow the leader, then you're going to be the outcast, and you're going to get picked on, then you're going to get bullied, and you're going to get all that. I lived it. I know what it's like. And going back to that, and then I had another strike, was that I was gay. I mean, they would have murdered me. But I always found a way in myself, and I wanted always to be better. And better to me was knowledge.
That's a beautiful word. That to me is such a beautiful word. I know everyone sees that, but yeah, we can do better, and we should be better, but we just don't seem to want to be. But carry on what you're saying.
People don't want to work. Working is knowledge. It's reading. It's education. It's, I mean, you take a girl. I mean, people kind of go on. Okay, I'll give you a good example. Say what you want about this and that, and da-da-da. But I look at people like Oprah Winfrey. And little black girl from Mississippi, not pretty at all, not this, not that. But she made herself get an education. She wanted to get better. She wanted to, the gangs were around her, the prostitution was around her, the single mothers were around her, and whatever. And she knew, that's not really the road I want to go down. I want to, and with education, you can do anything you want to do. But people are lazy. And everybody wants the easy street. And now, because of our society and all the stuff that's going on, the poor kids, I mean, they just think, oh, I'll get a reality television show, or I'll I'll skateboard from one building to another, and I'll put it on YouTube, and I'll get so many hits, and then I can make money, and da-da-da-da. And you're endangering your life. And they don't tell you how many of those kids that died trying to do that stunt. So we glamorize this craziness, but we're not glamorizing education, bettering yourself, respecting yourself, respecting your neighbor. You don't have to act like a thug. You don't. And what I did is that I basically, I was quite educated and did quite well, and then was living in Seattle, Washington. We moved to Los Angeles when I was 12, 13 years old. And for the first time in my life, I went to an all-black school. And I went to an all-black school. And
what was that like?
Well, it was a culture shock to a certain degree. I got teased and bullied. But you know what? I stood up for myself. And I knew that as much as they called me names and they bullied me and they used to chase me home and whatever, I didn't want to be like them. I didn't want to be like them. I had a choice. I didn't want to be like them. I never followed the leader. I always wanted to lead. I wanted to be my own person. I wanted to stand up for myself. And I wanted my my nieces and my nephews and people that I love or whatever to find themselves and not be, being like everybody else is the easiest thing in the world to do. Easiest thing in the world, but to be an individual, to stand up for yourself, to educate yourself, to ask questions. I'll never forget, in the 4th grade, one of my teachers said to me, Eddie, da-da-da-da, and I looked at her and I didn't know. And she looked at me straight in the face, she says, if you don't know something, ask. Never pretend you know something you don't, because you're always going to get caught out. And from that point on, it's something instilled, and I always ask. If I don't know something, I'll ask. I'm never embarrassed. We need to teach our children. We need to teach each other. We need to stop pretending. We need to start being more real with ourselves. Everybody knows right from wrong. There's enough crime, there's enough this, there's enough that in the world. What we need to do is we need to spread on our knowledge and our experiences onto people that we care about. Even if it's going to a youth club, if it's going to the schools, to church, just someone on the street. I mean, if I walk down the street and it's a bit late and I see somebody with a hoodie on, I cross the road. I cross to the other side of the street. And hoodies and all that kind of stuff has, been made quite trendy and all that, but it's a look. And the look, my antennas go up. It frightens me. Yes, yes, yes. I look into the camera and I say to you, yes, it frightens me. Because looking like a thug is not inviting. It's not friendly. You know? Or another thing that gets me is, really winds me up, is you get kids who come from a halfway decent family and they can't speak. They can't speak. And you say, sorry? I'm sorry, what did you say? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to embarrass myself to do the slang.
Yeah, but that's to them. But that to them is their. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, but you can't go get a job.
Yeah.
You can't go get a. Do your slang.
I'm not trying to look. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to defend. If I wanted to speak like that, I would. And clearly, I don't. I mean, someone actually. It's so funny. I spoke to a friend recently, who said to me, who knew me when I was in the gangs as a kid, and she spoke to me. I was like years later. Must have been 20 odd years later. And she said to me, you sound posh. I was like, what? I sound posh? I was like, I don't know. Maybe that's because the people I was around, have been around, were posh or whatever it may be. And it's just simply, you know, who you surround yourself with, that's just the way you'll be. And that's one thing I've learned is, you know, you put yourself around people at universities, you put yourself around, you're going to learn to communicate. You can't go into a lecture and not be able to communicate, articulate yourself to that lecturer, or to your teacher. You're not going to get very far in the class. Do you know what I mean? So it's about. I don't know how she took it as a negative of me selling out my people or whatever it was. But that's the whole point. It's not about, these aren't my people. We're all people, and everybody's my people.
That's something that really gets up my nose. Something that really, really pisses me off is when people, okay, I'm going back to the black culture thing now. You know, there used to be a thing when I was young, if you were really high yellow, you were, and if you were darker, you were more of the maid type, and you had all this.
That's all from slavery, though, isn't it? That's all from slavery.
Yeah, it is from slavery, but slavery's been over 100 years. Let's move on.
But people,
Let's move on.
That's saying no more and actually wanting to change things, but obviously, clearly, it's not happening.
No,
that's colorism. That's colorism.
No, it is colorism. But you know something, honestly and truly, do you know something? I have had, and I've traveled the world quite a few times now, probably about 3 times. I've traveled the world. I've had more racism from black people than any other in the world. Any other place I've been in the world. And when I do get a little bit of racism, I've got a neighbor next door who's quite racist and whatever, and I just laugh at her. I just laugh at her because she's ignorant. She's ignorant. You
said racism. I don't understand. Racism is the shade of your skin. I don't
no. Racism just being because you're different.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Is that it's more? What would that say? Prejudice? More prejudice?
Oh, I get more prejudice from black people than anybody that I've ever. And that's the honest God truth. And I've traveled the world. I mean, the only place that when I went to South Africa, the people were so kind. People. I mean, the South Africans, the black people there, they were so, they would sing and with joy, and they didn't have a lot, and they shared what they had, and
That's how I remember Jamaicans. That's how my family were. They shared everything.
I wonder why that we don't have that with each other. Why are we so ready to criticize each other, put each other down, and I mean, there is a problem. There's a problem in the world. There's always going to be a problem. But I think we need to start going back to, I don't know if it was Michael or Whitney that said, but we need to start at home first. And that's how you start.
Yeah, but even Tupac said it in one of his songs. He said that we've got to change. That's in that song. We've got to make a change. We've got to make a change. He was talking about it in this song. People overlook. I mean, they iconize Tupac, but they don't actually listen to his lyrics. They don't get. And that's what shocks me. It's like, well, what are you listening to? And then you're still behaving the same way. You're still, putting down your brother. You're still laughing you're digging people. You're acting in this kind of aggressive way. I mean, there's so much of that aggression. To even people, for me being considered, okay, I'm now posh because I'm no longer aggressive. Do you know what I mean? Because when I was younger, I was aggressive. Right. But I was aggressive because I was treated so aggressively
Right.
by people in my circle that the aggression was part of who I was. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So it's like, it's just, what is, I don't know, it's just these things kind of, I don't understand how we're not reading, we're not listening. It's from the music. It's from, a lot of it came from, and that's one thing we talked about before. You talked about Biggie, Puff Daddy and Jay-Z and everything else. But, the music I listened to, was so aggressive, it was so violent. This is just the rap music, it was gangster rap, it was the heyday of gangster rap. And, it was so violent, it was like, you wanted to emulate that, and that's what you did. You survived in that way, and it was like, you didn't feel like a man, because these were the men, these were the men. America was giving us this outpouring, all this intelligence, from black culture, whatever it was, black American culture. I know it's not black culture. I know, for me, it's just trauma. Black trauma, that this is happening to a subgroup of people in a place in the world, because that's in everywhere in the world. We've all got subgroups, and they take on whatever, and that's how they survive. So, but that was it. So it was the trauma that was being sold here. People were profiting from that, selling that trauma here, and I was then picking up that trauma. And, because I was traumatized by my experiences, and it was me, I was just acting out exactly, because I was looking for like people say when they're angry, they listen to angry music, But when you're angry all the time because your life is so angry, it's fertile ground for the rage. You're going to take that rage and you're going to put something with it. The good thing about me, the difference in me, because I've got to make this very clear to people, because obviously I'm creator of Clusterview and I'm not some wild beast anymore. But the fact is, my anger was directed at bad people. It was at people, I did not like bullies. I'd been bullied so much as a child. And so the bullying, I just wanted to, it was like I wanted to go after the people that were causing the problem. So I saw myself more like a vigilante. It was like, going fighting gangs that were problematic and dealing with people that were troublesome. And when someone went around someone used to say, that guy's a bad man, yeah, man, he's a bad man, don't mess with him. My antennas would go up, and I'm like, yeah, I want to deal with this guy. I want to mess with that guy, because I didn't want to become his best buddy. I want to deal with you, man, So it was all about trying to prevent other people suffering, And that's why it was so easy for me to kind of go, to cross that line and being taken from that world into another world where I was around people that cared for people. And it was normal to care, because I wanted to be that guy.
Yeah. I just...
that pregnant pause. But anyway, carry on.
It reminds me of the Tracy Chapman song. Over the lines, cross the lines, or whatever. And, you cross, one side is black, one side is white. And if you go across that line, there's going to be trouble. And in the song, what I love about what she says is that, that black kid is not going to make it home tonight. That white kid has lost his eyesight. I just sometimes I wonder, but what about the consequences that happens when things go wrong? For example, you get stabbed and you have to wear a bag the rest of your life. Or your little sister that you absolutely adore is taken to the woods and mutilated and taken advantage. I mean, the actions of, you get rid of one, then there's going to be two more. I mean, it only takes a split second.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But the thing is, of course it does. But the thing is, we associate. Sadly, the thing is, and what I was trying to get to is that we associate aggression, violence, whatever, all these things with black and black people, black culture, and we associate all of the the positive things and the good things with white people and our white brothers and sisters and our black brothers and sisters, whatever. What I'm trying to say. And that's the thing, is that and you find it through school. It's like people, education. Education is like it's what white people do. Do you know what I mean? They study, they read lots of books. That's what it was like for me. If you were smart, you're trying to be white. Like I told you, I spoke differently. Who's he trying to be? Do you know what I'm saying to you? Is he trying to be white?
Yeah, but
do you know what I mean? And it's not really the case. That's why I said I asked you about the black culture
that's what
thing.
I'm saying about education. You know,
Yeah, but black people are educated. You go to America, there are black educated people. You go to Africa, there are black educated people.
But
What?
there are more uneducated black people.
But the fact is, there's the middle classes and the upper classes in all of these countries.
Yeah, but sometimes a lot of those upper classes and middle classes came from no class.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, yes, they work the way out. So what we're seeing? So what we're seeing? Okay, so clearly what we're seeing then is that because the majority, prior to this, it was always the upper classes, middle classes, well, mainly the middle classes, projecting their world onto the big screen for us. Maybe we've seen so much of that now that maybe we're just enamoured by something we're not used to. You know, like people, like in prison, for example, you watch a prison film, you're like, oh, that's really interesting, because you've never been to prison before. You find it interesting that you're getting to see real reality shows in prison. Do you know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
Maybe we're just kind of enamoured by all of this kind of subculture because it's not what we're used to. But somehow it's kind of got out of control, whereby now the people who within those subcultures have made so much money from that, they're now like, whoa, there's an economy here. There's an economy here.
Yes, and again, they have made prison, they have made all the things that you shouldn't do have been glamorized.
Because there's an economy. And the majority are watching
but
it.
they don't show the other side.
No, they don't.
You get caught, so they confiscate everything. You know,
Yeah.
you lose your family, you lose your children. One of the things about crime life, and it is true, it's a very short-lived fantasy. You know, because I do believe that everything eventually catches up. And you wear yourself out. You know, and looking up, you know, doing the things that you're doing that are not right, and then have to look over your shoulder. I mean, it's bad enough us looking over our shoulders just down normal life.
And then we find ourselves hating ourselves, and that's the thing, because, you know, that's what happens. You have to start hating your own people because you're afraid of them and things like that, and you get more of that, you know, transpiring in your life, and everyone's just scared and angry at each other.
People are scared.
But again, it's all this trauma. So I kind of want to just think about this trauma aspect. Like, do you feel that we're in a position right now, or transition right now, that we can come through? Or do you feel that we're just going to be stuck in this trauma? Because there are lots of people that will say to you, we're talking nonsense. We're absolutely nonsense, and this is not how it is. And there is none of this stuff, and it's not real, and black people are very comfortable, and it's all fine. And it's great, and yes, they are. There are some very well-adjusted people in our society, but we're not talking about this because we're trying to put down our own people. It's not about that.
Not at all.
This is about an intellectual conversation about where we're seeing things progressing. Like, it's like you can see when things are heading in the wrong direction.
Things are getting worse.
Yeah, you can see it, and if you can either pretend and act like it's not happening, which is fine. You know, we can make money out. We could all just we could all get into the industry and make money out of this kind of negative culture. You know, we can all make wealth out of this stuff. You know? But the fact is,
a fortune.
But exactly.
I mean, sometimes I even think to myself, my gosh, you mean to tell me all those years that I did this and did that and da-da-da-da and da-da-da. But you know something? I think that we have to, within ourselves, want more, better for ourselves. We have to start with ourselves. Man in the mirror. We have to be able to look at ourselves and say, you know, I don't want that life. I don't want that. I want better for myself. I want to be able to sleep comfortable. You know, the problem that we're also having is that we're raising children in society. Everybody wants what everybody else has. You know, back when I was coming up, they used to call it keeping up with the Joneses. You know, now it's keeping up with the Kardashians. You know what I mean? And I think that we just put too much emphasis on, like, for example, again, going back to the parents, you have a child and you barely can put food on the table, and you're working hard and you're doing this and you're doing that and da-da-da. And then you let your kid buy a pair of 500, 600 pound, 700 pound pair of trainers on your credit card. He's walking around with 700 pounds on his feet and nothing in his pocket. You know, keeping up with the Kardashians and trying to do all that. No, I think that you know what I really do think, honestly and truly, the world has gone mad. And it's always been issues from the beginning of time, and it will be, but I do see very fastly how much is in 30 years the world has changed. I mean, my God. And in 20 years it's just like, I mean, kids can go on and find anything they want. A friend of mine's little boy came home to do his homework, and he had to study the Dallas Cowboys for a report. And he went on the internet and did the thing, and his mother comes to see how his homework is going, and he's watching Debbie Does Dallas.
Oh my gosh.
You know, because everything is so close on the
oh my gosh.
Googling and all that stuff. You put in one wrong thing or whatever, and then you get, you know, so
that's unbelievable. Yeah, the internet. So basically, you know, I think we're all saying the same thing. Everyone says it. The internet we all know how dangerous the internet has become or can be.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think no one's going to say, shut the internet off.
Oh, no, they'll never do that. But what I'm also saying, too, is another thing with going back to not putting down, of course, a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I don't really give a shit. You know, it's like some of the lyrics to the songs, and I hear the kids, and I say, what? What did you say? And then we have the big issue with one of the biggest problems that I find in our culture. The word, people can call each other and da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da. White person comes in because he's trying to emulate and be cool. Please, and they're ready to kill him. It's a negative word. We either have to, it has to not be used, or you can't go around, I mean, you can't have it both ways. It's a horrible, 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 horrible.
Yeah, but I get it.
And I don't get, I'm sorry.
No.
I don't get black culture, all this.
Black street culture, gang culture, all that kind of, because it is really,
both ways.
It's not, but okay, going by that then, that's quite interesting then, because sometimes, I know it sounds ridiculous, and I probably, the word, you know, the N word, but the fact is, sometimes some people do behave like the N word. They do behave, and I think the N word, it describes to me a certain type of person who just has no morals, who just doesn't care, and he doesn't care about how he's seen, his self-image, whatever. He just like, you know, like loud, not loud and brash, because that people would say, some people, that's part of our, you know, Jamaican culture. People are loud and brash and everything else. So it's not about that, but it's like there is, you know, you just don't care about what anyone else thinks. Like, you know, unapologetic. You know, and that's kind of to me, that's like, you can't live your life being unapologetic, realistically. But look at, for example, look at Will Smith and that slap. I mean, what's that? I mean, it's almost like, you know.
Do you know something? When that happened, I actually was my mouth open, and I thought, now. This is a man that came from the streets, pulled himself all the way up, you know, has his own family, and worldwide, good example. He made the world look at a black person, and I'm talking about traveling around the world, and that people love Will Smith. Will Smith, they love in Japan, they love Will Smith here. And Will Smith made people think, you know, they're not all the same. Okay, he really set a really good.
And that's so important.
Example.
That's so important, is that idea that we are the same. Some people believe we are all the same.
They do. And he did all that work. I mean, he did incredible. He even won an Academy Award. The list goes, everybody knows what his credibility is.
It's untouchable. It was untouchable.
And it's really funny. He goes to the Academy Award, he's front row, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. There's comedians that have gone on and roasted people and made fun of their partner and done this and done that, writing for Ricky Gervais. How do you say his name?
Yeah, he's crazy.
What's his name?
He's lovely, Ricky Gervais.
Gervais.
One of my favourite comedians.
He goes on, he did the bloody Emmys or whatever they are in America, and he roasted everybody that was in the audience. And people are looking, you know, putting their teeth, just kind of smiling and going, okay, great. He insulted everybody. Okay, you take it on the chin, you keep going. What Will Smith did was inexcusable, unacceptable, and he actually set It didn't reflect on black people well. It didn't reflect on black people well, because here's a guy that every white person with the most racist white people in the Bible Belt in America would invite him to dinner, have them at their table eating with their children or playing basketball with their kids, and they said, you know, he's really
he reverted basically
really
to type. He
himself
reverted
up.
to type basically.
Yes, and he did a fabulous job.
But why do you think he did that? Is because I believe it's because the media today is going more down that path.
No.
No, I believe it. I believe that media is now going more down a path where that behaviour is acceptable. Clearly, it's not. But it's like you can behave, you can be a bad man, blah blah blah. And everyone wants to be a bad man. Everyone wants to be outrageous, you know. And maybe he can get away with it. Who knows? But I think he was in a headspace where you know what, this is going to be cool for someone. I remember his son. There was actually a thing where his son put a post up saying, "That's how we do it." So clearly, it's acceptable to. Well, that's when you deal with us. This is how you get done,
okay,
kind of thing. So that's acceptable for his son.
You know what? You really let yourself down, and you let your people down, and you let a lot of people down. Because
I feel like you're talking to me. I feel like you're talking to me. Are you talking to Will Smith? Because I think you're talking to me.
I'm talking to Will Smith. He's let so many people down.
Yeah.
His career's finished.
Is it really?
Oh, it's finished. Nobody cares. I mean, that was. I tell you one thing.
Oh, he's a fantastic. I hope it's not finished. I hope it's not finished.
Thank God it was a black guy that he slapped. Because if it was a white guy, let me tell you something. Now, if that had been a white guy. And see, it's kind of like, and I find with black people, they can't quite balance what they really think about it. It's wrong. Unacceptable. What he did, Chris Rock made a joke. Will Smith took it too far. Yes, I do think.
It was what you describe as a bitch slap, and it's kind of so derogatory. And you can't. Yeah, but exactly. But that's the whole point. You cannot do that to people.
No, you cannot.
And it's It's become. This is the kind of things, the norms I'm talking about.
The norm.
Yeah, these are the norms.
His son said, "Oh, well, this is how we take care of things. Whatever."
Pretty much.
No, it's not. You don't put your hands on anybody. And the last thing you do is do it in front of the Academy Award. You have been accepted. We have worked so hard to get a chance to be in that platform. Hattie McDaniels won an Oscar when she did Gone with the Wind, and she couldn't even sit in the audience. She had to wait on the side, and then she was escorted up to get her award, and she had to go off. We've come so far, and now we come to this.
Do you feel that sometimes we allow racism to be like an excuse for everything? No, we know what we've been through.
Think that.
Well, we know what we've been through. Let me just add this if you don't mind. My wonderful friend Eddie. We know what we've been through. I know what I've been through. I know the trauma I've experienced. I know the trauma that's out there. I know the struggle that we face every day. The racism does exist, and prior to George Floyd, we couldn't have a conversation about. I literally, no lie, couldn't have a conversation about racism with anybody. Maybe a black person, but with a white person, it's not. With a white brother or black brother, black brother, yes, but a white brother, it wouldn't happen. They would just look at me and think, "Good man, get over it," kind of thing.
Yes, of course.
But George Floyd's passing made it so that we could talk about it. Like, hey, this is real. See, it's real. Okay, regardless of whatever stuff, the context might have been a little bit different. Yes, he was potentially out of his head, things, whatever. But the fact is,
he didn't deserve that.
Yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden, people wanted to talk about it. Prior to this, we couldn't talk about racism. So, but I feel that maybe we kind of use racism too much. We're saying it's racism, it's this. And instead of dealing with the reality, no. The problems in our communities are happening because we're not dealing with those problems. We're not handling those problems. We're not.
I just think that we like using racism, a lot of the times using people using things when it's convenient for them, or if they...
Yeah, I understand, yes. I understand the idea where it would be convenient.
To get out of something or whatever. And it has been to a certain degree. Nowadays, I mean, sometimes people go, "Oh, you're just racist," or "You're just racist." We use all of these things too freely.
But even if they are racist, the point is we're not supposed to let it be a problem for us. People were racist to me I could tell you about so many instances of racism in my life.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I married a white woman. I have mixed race children, irrespective of the racism I experience. And it's not because I wanted to be white.
Basically, what I meant is that, you know, when you have the good with the bad, the good with the bad, you have people that take advantage of saying, oh, they're racist, or they're just, you know, da 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 da, or they're homophobic, or da da da. You know, we use things when it's convenient a lot of the times when it really has nothing to do with what you're screaming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So
But
I think that there is a problem with that in the world today, that we are just, and we're not giving the respect to the people who are really going through these issues.
absolutely, and that's a great point. Something I want to say as well, because obviously you happen to be around. You know, I don't know if it's a privilege to, because obviously you're privileged to be around Ike Turner and Tina Turner, but maybe what you may have experienced or seen, I don't know, I've not read your book, and I definitely will buy your book and read your book, I promise you. But I didn't want to make this an interview about that. I wanted to,
yes.
but I'm still interested, you know what I mean, to know, because you were around, I mean, we all know Ike Turner. My growing up about Ike Turner, learning about Ike Turner, he was a very, very aggressive and dangerous man.
Yes.
So that my thoughts are this: in situations that was the culture just accepting of that behaviour, why wasn't that dealt with? Why was he allowed to be the way he was with Tina Turner? Why didn't anyone change that?
Well, first of all, you got to talk about. First of all, it's you're going back in history, and we were going through change of the time. The sign of the times were changing. Every other, I would say, if you live on a street and there's 10 houses there, I would say 5 out of 10 of those houses, there were abuse going on in those homes. It was almost part of just the way people were.
All people. Was it all? So that was just a masculine culture. Managing your woman in that way.
Women used to get a backhand all the time. I mean, you know, you say something,
Wow.
You could be at dinner. Okay, let me change it.
That's crazy.
Quite well-to-do, middle class, and you go to dinner and you say something, and he looks at you and you go, oh well, you know, we won't talk about the affairs that I know that you've had, and da da da. He just looks at her, and then anyway, sorry, you know, we had to involve you, da 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 da, and then from that point on, he's giving her daggers, and she's like looking at him like, your little secret's out now, right? As soon as they leave and they get home and and they get behind closed doors, he starts knocking her about. And her only way was to let his little secret out.
Are you talking about her as in just generalising?
No, I'm talking about generalising.
Yeah, okay.
Generalising, just in general. Women, if you go to the Bible Belt, you go to the Bible Belt, and you go to the Bible Belt, you go to the South, you go to these places, women being beaten and abused was the norm. And nobody would say anything.
God's sake.
Police would not even get involved. They would say it's a domestic problem.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, yeah.
Time started to change, and people start going, no, this is not right. Children were seeing their mother or their parents fighting and getting beat, and growing up with that in their head, they think it's normal. Oh, it's okay. My wife does something I don't like, I can just give her back.
Well, the reason why I asked that question, because I just wanted to say, are we just stuck along this journey and we're not ready yet? I mean, are we just still stuck in this kind of place where...
No.
It's only, how many generations is that? You know, it's like, what, 2 generations?
Well, at least now, people have rights. Before, like I just said, back in the day, and you're going, let's say in the 70s, going up until, I think, the 80s, you could beat your wife almost black and blue. The only thing that they would do when the police would come is basically said, listen, I'm going to take you, you have to go someplace else and spend the night tonight. He would never get arrested. That's a new thing. Unless you beat someone so black and blue that they were in the hospital, or you killed someone. But now, of course, it's different because people have a voice. It's the same thing with Black Lives Matter. People have a voice. And the only reason why that people really had a voice, and I'm going back to the other incident, but I can't think of the name now, is because it was filmed. If it wasn't on tape, if it wasn't filmed and witnessed, it would have been brushed under the carpet. See, back years ago, I forget that one in LA when they beat the man, but because it was filmed.
Well, the thing is, though, the funny thing is, though, the music of that time was very different to the music of today, but it seems like the violence seems to be just as, you know, as similar, you know, equivalent in some regards. It's like there was still violence within the culture, but the music was better. You know, Tina Turner's music was phenomenal. You know, the Jacksons.
Do you know the difference?
But the violence was still the same. Sometimes it's flipped. The violence is now here, and we can see the violence, and it's in the music. Whereas then it was kind of hidden.
Well, it was hidden because what happened, in my opinion, is that music was almost like a plaster. It healed you from all your pain. It made you feel that there's hope for tomorrow. It made you feel like I'm not going to always be in a situation like this. I'm going to, you know, you watch, I'm going to get my shit together and I'm getting out of this mother. You know what I mean? Music gave you hope. Music made you feel like you can fall in love. Music made you feel like I'm going to get an education. Music, that's what music was. And everybody kind of, and you could take anyone out of any kind of situation, any language or whatever, and you put on music and everybody is the same. Everybody's into the groove. Today is different. You put that music on and people get aggressive. They feel like, I want to go kill somebody. I want to go rob somebody. I'm broke. Why should I be broke? And they've got this and they've got that. They just bought a new car. It's different. Music is always made to make you feel good or make you feel sad or make you cry a bit or make you have strength. This music today is just aggressive.
It seems as if the stress and the problems got so big that we couldn't actually keep it out of the music any longer. Is that what you think? 'Cause, I mean, that's how I like to end it. I think I'd like to end it on that, basically.
Well,
we couldn't keep it out. We couldn't keep the music. We couldn't keep that stress and that pain and that trauma out of the music. Whether that was overwhelming because of the police brutality,
yeah, but I don't find that
or
music,
whatever that is.
I don't find that the music. I don't find that the music of today make people.
It's not about making. No, it's not about it made them feel good. It's about it went over a tipping point, whereby it's about how do we get it back to where it should be, whereby
it'll never be right.
Okay.
It'll never be right. We've gone past that now. We've gone past that. It's like we've gone past slavery, but slavery's really still here. We've gone past, burning a cross on someone's front lawn. But we really haven't gone beyond that. You know what I mean? Now that the music is a way of an expression, and I do say that, not for me, but for them, for whoever, that's their way that they're expressing themselves. But the only problem I have with it is that I find that it doesn't have any harmony to it. It doesn't have any bonding to it. It's angry. It's aggressive. It's dangerous. It's you drive down the street and you walk down the street and you hear the music is just okay. When I was growing up, we used to have in Los Angeles, they used to call them lowriders, and the lowriders would drive down the street and they would play their music and it would be really loud, and they would have these cars that would kind of like do these kind of things, and everybody would kind of. We would all go, oh, okay, dear, okay, great, that's the thing, whatever. And it was like, okay, and then you get away from it as soon as you could. And today you got that music on, and they know every lyric, and they're just singing it, and it's... I don't think, I think that along with the way the earth is, I think that basically, I wish, and I say this, I wish peace for the world. I wish peace for people and their loved ones and in their heart. And I wish that we can find a way. I believe in praying. I believe in faith. I believe in hope, trust. But I don't think it's going to be around that much longer. I think man will destroy. I think the world is gone crazy. I think it's gone absolutely mad. And I know that it's just out of control. You know, even the internet is out of control. Even this is out of control. You can't keep that up. You know, and we're only getting more and more advanced. We're getting more and more this. We're getting more and more that.
Well, there is an alternative. The thing is, you know, you see on the internet, there really isn't many alternatives to it. It's like it's the same. You know, you just trapped in that. But I like to believe that I love what you're saying, and I love what you're saying because I know you want the best, and that's why I say I love what you're saying, because it sounds very dramatic and very foreboding. But end of the day, it's honest, and it's like, you know, very few people have that truth, you know, and we're all talking about truth in our music, and Tupac did it in his songs, but very few people will actually be brave enough to step up and say, you know what, this is it. We're at a turning point, if there's ever going to be one. We're looking at, you know, look at what's going on right now in Russia, in Ukraine.
Absolutely.
In Ukraine. But the fact is, you know, it comes a time when you actually say, you know, not enough's enough, because I'm not here to kind of start war on a music or on a people or anybody.
Oh no, we don't want that.
It's more about, sometimes you have to create alternatives so that people can see the alternative. Mm-hmm. There isn't enough alternatives. We've lost a sense of creativity, and we've lost that ability to be different, that which we would have experienced and we would have enjoyed, you know, so much. I could be in a gang, and all of a sudden I became an artist, I became a singer, I was joining the army for a while. I did lots of things. I was an individual, and I experienced problems along the way. Not everyone appreciated or liked me being different, but I was brave enough to be that. We need to encourage.
Whose life is it?
It's mine, but we need to encourage more people to want a similar end, and to recognise that perhaps what they've chosen isn't the only thing out there. And that's what I'm trying to say to you, and that's why I want to leave it. So, Eddie, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. I loved our conversation on the phone. And, you know...
I hope we were able to get a lot of that back into this, because it was very
I think we did. We did. But, you know, I wanted you to speak, and I did get that. So I really thank you for that. And so to everyone...
I couldn't have done it without... you know, you have to... It's called teamwork. I mean, you know, I throw it out there, and I respond, and I'm very honest and open about what I feel and how I feel, because I just feel that so many people follow the leader and they don't lead themselves. You know, we need more leaders.
Thank you very much, Eddie. We'll leave it on that note. Thank you so much, Eddie. Everyone,
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.